news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Nathan Hager. A new trading day begins on Wall Street with stocks firmly in the green on this Wednesday morning. That is the sound of the opening bell from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. And at the open, the S&P 500 is higher by about 0.7%, a gain of nearly 50 points. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is higher by about 0.4%, up more than 170 points. The NASDAQ Composite is leading the gains, up nearly 1%, up more than 200 points. The 10-year Treasury yield is down about a basis point to 4.01%. A strong end to big bank earnings season is outshining new trade tensions with China on Wall Street. Morgan Stanley capped it off with beats across the board. Bloomberg's Scarlett Fu has the details.
Morgan Stanley's wealth management business reporting revenue of $8.23 billion, much higher than what analysts were looking for, which was $7.78 billion. And that was an increase of about 7%. So this is a big beat here. And of course, net revenue did rise more than 13% from the same time last year.
And Bloomberg's Scarlett Fu says Morgan Stanley's stock traders raked it in big. They even beat Goldman Sachs in a business they've dominated in recent years. At the open, Morgan Stanley shares are up 5%. We also heard from Bank of America. They came in strong as well on investment banking and net interest income. Bloomberg Intelligence senior banks analyst Allison Williams says that sets B of A up pretty well for a big event next month.
Bank of America has their first investor day in many years coming up. I think the last investor day was around 2011, so certainly has been a long time. And so we expect that a lot of the guidance, the forward look, and maybe some return targets we could get in early November.
Allison Williams of Bloomberg Intelligence. Bank of America shares at the open are up 4.5%. All this has investors looking past the latest trade threat from President Trump, that Truth Social post that he could stop buying Chinese cooking oil since Beijing isn't buying soybeans from the U.S. Bloomberg's Rosalind Matheson is following that.
Cooking oil is actually only, a very small import for China. Only a small amount of cooking oil does come in from China to the U.S. in terms of specifically just how much soybeans China has, typically imported from the U.S. So it's a bit of an asymmetrical thing to come at.
Roz Matheson is Bloomberg's chief Asia correspondent, but Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says the U.S. has more levers to pull with China.
Things can de-escalate, that we don't want to have to escalate. We have things that are more powerful than the rare earth export controls that the Chinese want to put on.
Speaking at a CNBC conference in Washington, Secretary Bessent said the U.S. and China are holding working-level conversations during this week's IMF meetings, and he still thinks President Trump is a go to meet with China's Xi Jinping at the end of the month. Secretary Bessent is also weighing in on the government shutdown.
I'm calling on moderate Democrats to come across the aisle, reopen the government, and you'll be a hero. You'll be a hero.
Secretary Bessent says the military won't miss paychecks today thanks to a shift in Pentagon research funds. He says the shutdown may be costing the U.S. economy $15 billion a day. In the Middle East, Israel says it's considering cutting aid to Gaza in half over the slow release of deceased hostages by Hamas. The militant group handed over 4 more bodies overnight. Israel says one of them was not a hostage. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he's holding up his end of the ceasefire.
We agreed to give peace a chance. The conditions in his 20-point plan are very clear. It's not only that we get the hostages out without getting our military out, but that we would subsequently have both demilitarization and disarmament. They're not the same thing. First, Hamas has to give up its arms.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke on CBS News. Hamas has yet to make that commitment. Back on Wall Street, a group of investors led by BlackRock's global investment partners is making a big AI commitment, buying Aligned Data Centers for $40 billion. BlackRock shares at the open are higher by more than 1%, and Warner Brothers Discovery is up nearly 3%. The New York Post is reporting Paramount Skydance CEO David Ellison may disclose a bid for Warner Brothers Discovery as soon as this week. And that's news when you want it. With Bloomberg News Now, I'm Nathan Hager. This is Bloomberg.